I destroyed her life, and I did it with a smile on my face. The first time I saw her smile at my husband across the dinner table, I knew it was over. Not the marriage, no, that had long since become a farce. What was over was my patience. My belief that family was sacred. My illusion that love could forgive anything. In that moment, I didn't scream, didn't strike, didn't walk out. I simply smiled back. And then I began to plan. Her name was Lisa. My husband Mark's younger sister, just 2 years his junior, but looking 10 years younger. Flawless skin, light steps, that effortless ease you lose when you've spent years waking at 5 a.m. to pack school lunches while your husband snores under the covers. She'd been living with us for 3 months. Just temporarily, she'd said when her boyfriend kicked her out. Until I get back on my feet, she added, looking me straight in the eye. I agreed. We were family. Or so I thought. But family isn't just blood. Family is boundaries. And Lisa erased them the way you erase stains from a white shirt. Carefully, methodically, with pleasure. At first, it was small things. She used my shampoo without asking. Then she started trying on my clothes. You haven't worn this in a year, she'd say, admiring herself in my favorite dress, the one I'd saved for a special occasion. I stayed silent. Then she began cooking dinners. Mark's so exhausted, he deserves a real meal, she'd say, placing a steaming plate in front of him while my reheated pasta sat cold in the kitchen. He ate. Quietly. Gratefully. As if I hadn't fed him for the past 7 years. Then came the conversations. Quiet ones over coffee while the kids were at school and I was at work. I never heard them, but I saw them. Saw how they sat close on the couch, shoulders nearly touching. Saw how he laughed at her jokes, the way he hadn't laughed at mine in years. Saw how she'd adjust his collar as if it were her right. One day, I caught them in the kitchen. She stood with her back to the door. He faced her. His hand rested on her waist, not embracing, just resting. As if it were natural. As if it were normal. What's going on? I asked, forcing my voice steady. They jumped apart like they'd been burned. Lisa blushed. Mark looked away. Nothing, he said. Just talking about fixing the faucet. I nodded. Walked away. That night, as the kids slept and he lay beside me pretending to sleep, I realized, if I screamed now, left, made a scene, I'd lose. He'd say I was overreacting. That I was jealous for no reason. That Lisa was his sister and I should accept her. And she'd stand in the doorway with that wounded look, and everyone would believe I was the problem. But I wasn't going to be the problem. I was going to be the solution. First, I stopped reacting. Stopped noticing her presence. Spoke to her only when necessary. Smiled when she entered the room. Even offered her to stay longer. You're like family to us, I said, locking eyes with her. She smiled back. Thought she'd won. But I watched. Collected details. How she washed dishes, always leaving one wet plate on the rack. How she forgot to turn off the bathroom light. How she whispered on the phone to friends in the hallway. How she looked at Mark when she thought no one was watching. One day, I found her phone on the kitchen table. She'd gone to shower. I didn't read her messages, that would have been too crude. But I snapped a photo of her lock screen. Memorized her PIN, 0409. Her birthday. Foolish. Predictable. A week later, I knew everything. Not because I was hunting for an affair, but because I was hunting for weakness. And I found it. She was texting her ex. Not just, how are you, but real letters. He was begging her to come back. She was hesitating. I don't want to be a burden to them, she wrote. But Mark, he's so kind. And she hates me. There it was. She thought I hated her. Perfect. Let her keep thinking that. I changed nothing. Just kept being the perfect wife. Cooked dinners. Put the kids to bed. Smiled at Mark. And at night, while he slept, I wrote. From a fake account. As her ex, I miss you. I still love you. Say the word, and I'll come get you. She replied within 2 hours. I miss you too. But it's not the right time. A week later, I messaged again. I can't wait forever. If you don't come back, I'm leaving for good. She stopped eating. Grew anxious. Started packing her things at night. I pretended not to notice. Then one morning, she vanished. Left a note. Thank you for everything. Sorry I was such a burden. Mark was stunned. Called her, texted, searched. She didn't answer. 3 days later, he got a message from her ex. She's with me. We're leaving. Don't look for us. He came home pale, eyes red. Sat at the table and said, I don't understand what happened. I poured him coffee. Placed my hand over his. Sometimes people just leave, I said softly. Especially when they feel like outsiders. He looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in months. You're not angry? On the contrary, I said. I feel sorry for her. But I'm glad you're mine again. He hugged me tightly. Like before. But I knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a new chapter. Because revenge isn't screaming, crying, or smashing dishes. Revenge is giving someone exactly what they want and making them regret it. Lisa got her ex back. A month later, he dumped her again. I heard from a mutual friend. She was left with no money, no home, no family because Mark stopped answering her calls. He said she'd betrayed his trust by leaving without explanation. And me? I got my husband back. Not with tears. Not with accusations. But with silence. With a smile. With cold calculation. Today, 6 months later, Mark and I are truly together again. The kids laugh at dinner. The house smells of fresh bread. And I sit in the kitchen, sipping tea, thinking, sometimes, to save your family, you have to destroy what's eating it from within. Yes, I destroyed her life. But not out of hatred. Out of love. Because real revenge is winning while your enemy doesn't even realize they've lost. Months passed. Mark changed. Became attentive. Caring. He started helping around the house without being asked. Kissed me goodbye. Asked about my day. I didn't know if he realized how close he'd come to losing everything, or if he'd simply decided family mattered more than his sister's whims. But it no longer mattered. Lisa tried to return. Sent a long letter full of remorse. Said she'd been tricked, that she never wanted to leave, that her ex had forced her. Mark read it and burned it. Without a word. I never told him the truth. Never revealed that I'd pushed Lisa to leave. Because truth isn't always salvation. Sometimes, truth is poison that destroys what you've just rebuilt. Instead, I just held him close and whispered, We'll be okay. Always. And that night, after he fell asleep, I took out an old notebook, the one where I'd recorded all her weaknesses, habits, mistakes, and slowly, page by page, burned it in the fireplace. The wind carried the ashes away. And I was left alone with silence and the warmth of my home. Revenge was over. But victory had only just begun. This morning, I woke to children's laughter. My son ran down the hall with toast in hand. My daughter sang in the shower. Mark was already in the kitchen, making coffee, reading the news. He smiled when I walked in. Good morning, he said. Good morning, I replied. And in that moment, I understood. I hadn't just gotten my husband back. I'd gotten myself back, the woman I was before doubt crept in, before fear took over, before I forgot that family isn't just sacrifice, but boundaries too. And sometimes, to protect what's yours, you have to be ruthless. But ruthlessness isn't always evil. Sometimes, it's just love dressed in steel. I sat at the table, took the toast from my son's hand, looked at my husband, and smiled. Because now, everything is mine. And no one will ever take it away again.